details, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it in this week. So let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1. A lot of Americans are struggling, but some are pulling together with the little that they have. One NPR article focuses on how out-of-work Americans could have no way to pay the bills if and when their benefits end, their unemployment benefits. The story is still developing. Another headline, a Chicago nun reportedly raised $108K for charity by running a marathon on a treadmill. So people are coming together. They're doing some unbelievable things in some unbelievable times. Taylor Swift donates $25,000 to help a kid desiring to go to school in the UK and study mathematics. She wanted to pursue her goal to study mathematics, so Taylor Swift chipped in and gave her $25,000. Another headline, one report by CNBC says that about 40% of Americans don't have enough emergency funds set aside to survive a month without help. Some can't even last a week. They don't have enough money. Finances have been in almost every headline and every top headline this year. Facebook has announced some new programs to help Black-owned businesses across the nation. The company is aiming to provide $40 million in its $100 million grant program to be issued out to 10,000 Black-owned businesses in the United States. This is why story number 1 crept in this week, because somebody has got to pick up the shovel and help out those who are providing the dirt. And that's why story number 1 made it in this week. Story number 2. Are we winning the COVID-19 war? Peak average cases are down, but the virus is still lingering, and some people are catching the virus and recovering. So the number 1 question is, can we declare victory yet? People are recovering, and there seems to be some stunning results with treating this disease. This story is still developing, and as you could probably bet, the Mediator will be on top of it. Born, put up to the clouds, raised, and bred to mediate. Peace is the answer. The middle is the way. Calm and collective. That's why this story made it to the top 8 this week, because we may be winning this battle to finally take down the wrath of COVID-19. Ooh, the saga continues. The U.S. seems to be affected the most as the world has topped 23 million COVID-19 cases. That's another big developing story. WHO head says that the pandemic could be over in 2 years. So we may be smelling some victory here, even though we've lost a lot of people along the way. The U.S. will allow the emergency use of blood plasma to treat COVID-19. In the last headline that made it inside of story number 2, businesses have been leaking cash to provide PPE for their workers. PPE for their workers as protection equipment. Walmart has spent $3.3 million a day on cleaning supplies. But the good thing inside of story number 2 and why it made it in this week is we could almost be there. But there's still a lot going on, a lot of cases, but some people are saying that we may finally have a grasp on this disease, as you can see what the stories that made it in this week. Story number 3. The business climate in America is changing, and COVID-19 has spotlighted possible flaws in capitalism. Some say too much regulations are bad, but what happens when those with too much overpower those with too little? This is becoming a key topic in capitalism due to the numerous bailouts and government intervention in businesses too big to fail. In the wrath of COVID-19, small businesses and the private sector have been devastated by mandatory shutdowns and limited access to capital. This story is still developing. Another headline, Microsoft relationship with China is in the hot seat with the potential purchase of TikTok. This story crept its way in because Trump has been trying to regulate TikTok. They've been trying to sue the Trump administration. Now Microsoft is in the mix trying to purchase it. So another headline, New York EMS union chief says people will die if plans to lay off emergency responders is followed through. So if they plan to lay off some emergency responders, the chief of the union in New York says that people could possibly die. So even though we may be sensing some defeat in COVID-19, there's still a lot of recovering that has to be done. He has also stated that the department is already running thin on emergency responders. So keep an eye on story number 3. That's why it made it to the top 8 this week. Story number 4. COVID-19 and natural disasters have negatively impacted a lot of people. Officials have reported on the wildfires in California. They say that about 12,000 lightning strikes started nearly 585 fires, causing more than 13,000 firefighters to be deployed to fight the fires. East of San Jose, the fires have burned more than 1 million acres, according to the report. Some firefighters have reportedly been working 24-hour shifts to fight these fires. This is a big headline. The report hasn't said that many people have died, but it has reported that some people have lost their life in these fires. Over 60,000 people have reportedly fled their homes. So it's maybe time for Americans to group together and try to be united as possible. As not only fires are taking people's lives, COVID-19, and there's just so much going on. They're talking about police and public relations all the time. Story number 4 is a big headline, and that's why it made it in this week. Well, those are our top 4 stories that made in this week. I'll be right back with the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it into the Mediator this week. Don't go anywhere. Once again, you're the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back after this break. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. So let's waste no time. Ooh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 5. If they call me a nut, then give it to a squirrel. Jumping from job to job may be the new normal. That's story number 5. 17,500 set to be laid off due to a travel slump at American Airlines. I may be full of love and joy, but these stories are serious. But somebody's got to find time to laugh and feel some excitement in the Mediator, in the news. It can't all be down and sorrows. There's got to be some love and some singing along the way. Whew. Feel much better now. Economists say that America will be stuck in this recession for some years. Well, I'm optimistic, so as long as I've got you to watch me smile, then we're headed in the right direction. That's why story number 5 is such a big headline. In fear of losing their jobs, one report says that airline pilots are learning how to fly drones. Story number 5 is a big story, and that's why it made it to the top 8 this week. Story number 6, analyzing what government has done right and wrong in the middle of a pandemic. I want to warn you in this story that if you see some of your relatives or some loving friends on the front lawns with a camera phone or some type of camera videotaping themselves and uploading it, they may just be trying to make a few extra dollars for the holidays. So please try not to hate. You'll understand that after I get done with these headlines. People are assessing shutdowns and they're blaming the government, some government officials, especially governors, for the collapse of local economies and businesses. This is a top concern, and that's why I told you that little side story at the beginning. Increases at food banks and shortages of needed products and medical supplies remain a top concern inside of story number 6. That's because things are coming up short because people don't have enough money to either meet demand or try to even come close to meeting demands. Here's a list of things that the government has done in this pandemic. Now, let me remind you that the increase in gun sales is also a top concern, but here's a list of what the government has provided when it comes to relief funds for Americans in need. Now, the government has provided stimulus bills that have passed and in 1 year that have been signed by President Trump. The government has also developed PPP loan programs for small businesses by working with the Small Business Administration. The government has also intervened in unemployment benefits. Along with assistance by forbearance programs for rent and student loans. Some people have already lost their property or have already been evicted, but there's a lot going on inside of story number 6. Planning has also been key as many states have had to develop plans to open safely back up. The government and the NRA can also be credited for monitoring the increase in gun sales. So there's a lot happening. These are just some of the actions put in place by the government to help suffering Americans get through this pandemic. So even if you see me out there flying a kite with a tip jar out on the curb, that means that somebody that I'm just trying to do what every American in this economy is trying to do, stay afloat. So that's why story number 6 made it in this week. Much love. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it in this week. The fear of voting by mail. Big headline. One key story stuck out this week, and that is the mail-in ballot issue. The reality is there are a lot of pros and cons when voting by mail, but the cons outweigh the pros. One is accuracy. That's a con. The mail could be lost en route. Another con is delay. The mail may not be counted on time, causing a candidate to lose votes. Another con, there is cheating and cost. The cost of making ballots that can't be duplicated is key. Story number 7 shows you why there is so much fear surrounding voting by mail in the midst of a pandemic. This will be a hot topic this election season as election boards adjust to protect everyone's right to vote. Story number 7 is a big headline. Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina feels that voting by mail will not be a problem. As you can see the mixed opinions inside of story number 7. House approved a bill blocking any changes to the Postal Service until after the election. Story number 7. Big headline. It has a lot to do with your right and your duty to vote. That's why story number 7 made it in this week. Story number 8 in the top international headline and developing news story that made it in this week. Riots and protests are bringing to the forefront problems in America often forgotten. The reality is there is a problem. If there wasn't a problem, we wouldn't see all this madness. That's why this story made it to the top this week. The media has been under attack continuously from the public and the president for its coverage of how the police detain, shoot, and at times kill suspects without a trial, causing riots and protests to erupt. A new developing story circulating about how that it has been circulating and has put the attention on what police can and cannot do when a suspect does not cooperate. The public sees no justice in shooting victims in the back or killing them without a trial. It is clear that there may be a some training and procedure problems inside of story number 8, and that's why it's made at the top this week. This number 1 concern is what bumped this story up to the top, and that concern is should somebody be given the death penalty for not cooperating? This is a big, or be shot, and that's why the story is such a big headline. In less than 2 years, policing issues have been top stories. But the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin brings attention to a growing problem that seems to be constantly circulating in the news. The reality is that there is a problem with how justice officials and law enforcement officials are trained and what citizens may not understand when they are detained and told to cooperate when pulled over or taken into police custody. The number one concern in this top story is it lawful for an officer to shoot an unarmed suspect when or if he or she feels threatened? That's talking about the officer. The fact that Kenosha delayed enforcing body cameras on their officers may leave out some details inside of what's going on. So there may be some much needed footage that may not be seen because the Kenosha decided to delay officers having cameras on them, so that people may not know what actually all occurred at the scene of this crime. Another key talking point in this story is that the suspect, Jacob Blake, was shot multiple times in the back. The story is still developing, but like the family says, let's try to handle things peacefully and let justice be served, and that's why the story is at the top this week. 42 people were arrested after authorities clashed with police in Detroit in another police shooting, leaving onlookers on the outside of mass protests wondering how to solve this growing cancer in the field of justice and across America. I hope you got something out of the top stories that made it this week. And as usual, I got something out of it. I just want to thank all the people on the front lines, the media, the journalists. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the mediator. It has been a trying and an unbelievable week of news stories coming in. But my advice to you is to stay safe and try to be peaceful and love thy neighbor as thou love thyself. And if you want to show some support, it doesn't take much. All you have to do is buy something, visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. I'm going to take a break, do it all over again next week, read through over 200 or more stories to keep you informed. That's always been the goal. So I want to thank you so much for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Have a good week, everybody. Stay safe and try to stay out of trouble. Peace.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.